Oh, gosh.
Oh.
Sorry. All right. Welcome everyone to the May 3rd, 2022 Bethel Board of Education work session. Mrs. Hageman, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Mansfield,
Here.
Mrs. Sebastian,
Here.
Mr. Elam,
Here.
Mrs. Donahue, here, Mrs. Franks.
Here. Okay. I see that we've had some additions to the agenda since it was published. Are there any further additions to the agenda? Right, hearing none. Is there a hearing of the public regarding agenda items? See none online. I see none in the room. Okay, moving to item 4, important dates of the district. Calendar is on the screen for board members. We have our thespian induction ceremony tomorrow night. And solo and ensemble in the elementary auditorium will be happening on the 7th. And then Monday is our facilities and Board of Education regular meeting. We have the parent meeting for middle school football on the 11th, the middle school dance on the 13th, but we don't have the time here. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the high school spring concert and departmental awards are on the 15th at 3 p.m. We'll be having the middle and elementary school band and choir concerts on the 17th. And then senior awards and senior last day. And I'm not ready for any of that stuff. So does anyone see anything else missing or that we need to address on any of those dates? Okay. Hearing none. We go back to our item 5, treasurer's items. Mrs. Hickman, turning it over to you.
Okay, so just need to review and for your approval at the next meeting, the board minutes from our work session on April 5th. Regular, let's see, April 18th. And 8th.
Special meeting.
We had a special on the 8th, and then we had regular meeting on the 18th, and then another special on the 26th. So if you could be so kind to review those for approval at the next board meeting. Then second reading of board policy 0165.1. We discussed this at the last board meeting and made some changes based upon those discussions. Just section A, green shows the changes, and of course red shows the deletions that we took out, but it's just to that one section A. So if you read through those and have any questions, let me know, we can discuss further. I was able to get the detailed check register out there for April 2022 for your review. I also have the April board reports and the cash flow or cash summary report for your review, and the amended certificate of available resources and our appropriations resolution. I do not have the 5-year forecast done. I'm working on that as we see. Steve, it's a May update. It is only May 3rd, but I'm working on it. So as soon as that's available, I will make that available to the board to review before the meeting.
Anything notable in the financials?
No, we're pretty much where we need to be. There's a couple areas like purchase services that are a little higher than we anticipated, and I think those are because we had services we didn't anticipate with students. Of course, we're going to have a big adoption of instructional materials, so that's going to be an adjustment that wasn't included in the original 5-year that we need to make it, adjustments for. So other than that, no, I think we're pretty much where we need to be.
Okay. Other questions for Mrs. Hageman?
The only question I had, and this is not necessarily related to this, was did we get are the investments switched over to Fifth Third, or that's still in process?
Everything's been overnighted to them and they're working on getting all that switched over.
So should I just quit asking?
Yeah, as soon as the switch is flipped, I will let you know.
Then I will quit asking.
So theoretically, this is our second reading of the policy and we could have voted on it if we put it on here for a vote. Since we didn't put it on here for a vote, we're not going to vote, correct?
Correct,
Because we didn't publish it that way.
correct.
So just so everyone knows on the policy. Okay, and that's fine. It's not a huge thing. It's not a huge change. It's something that is pending, holding anything up, I guess I should say. So not a big policy, not a big deal. Okay. And just for the board's edification too on that, since we were aware that there was a policy that said that it was superintendent, president, and one other member, I knew that Mrs. Sebastian would be have some time available because of the auditors meeting earlier in the week. So I had asked her to attend that agenda meeting with me because I knew that she'd be available, and she did. So this agenda was set with me, Mr. Fergus, and Mrs. Sebastian. Probably should have sent an email about that, and I just didn't think of it. So sorry about that, but it was not driven by any individual one person or anything like that. So we did follow that policy for this meeting. And we'll get a schedule together as soon as we get it approved. Okay.
Thank you for that update, and thank you for rolling that additional line item in there for us. It gives everybody an opportunity then to help participate.
Sure.
We'll be better in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Like I said, we'll get a schedule together. If that all stays the same. Should appear to go. All right, item 6, superintendent's update. Mr. First.
Yes, on the agenda this evening for discussion are several items. The first one is review of certified substitutes. This is one that appears regularly anytime the substitute teacher list from the Miami County ESE either it's an addition or a subtraction. So it requires a school board approval each time that it changes. Secondly, we have review of classified staff, one-year contracts. We have a number of folks that are on here that will be receiving a one-year contract. Andre Coates, Justin Cromwell, Melissa Diskett, Heather Kemper, Noah Newman, and Benjamin Snyder. Letter C, we have review of classified staff, 2-year contracts. That would be Alan Brandon, Kaylee Fowles, Julie Gravitt, Claudia Holbrook, Ashley Holgren, Danny Jones, Richard Kinnison, Scott Lawson, Ron Ritchie, Stephanie Schutz, Rhonda Smith, Terry Stanley, and Amanda Stegner. Also on here, very excited to announce the graduating class of 2022, pending they meet all requirements from the Ohio Department of Education and also Bethel local schools. So you can see that list of students that are on here. As far as upcoming graduation at Hobart Arena. Leave of absence. Custodian, Mrs. Terry Stanley, will be out of the district for several days to help with her mother's surgery. So we wish her and her mother best wishes during her leave of absence. Unfortunately, we also have received resignation via retirement from Bob Shadowins, who has served the district for 13 years as a bus driver. So I'd like to thank Mr. Shadowins for his service and dedication to Bethel local schools, and most importantly, our students. We value and understand the importance of bus drivers and how hard they are to come by. So we thank Mr. Shadowins for his dedication to our district. And I know Mrs. Rhodes has been in the process of, I believe, training 3 additional drivers, which will help serve our routes, but also as substitute drivers as well, which we're always in dire need of. So once again, thanks to Mr. Shadowins for his 13 years of service to our district. Next item on there is resignation of Coach Robert Sukol, who served this year as strength and conditioning coach for the district. This is one that we were able to accomplish with the negotiations process last year, where we had 3 smaller supplementals that we combined into one. Coach Sukol did a phenomenal job this year as our S&C coach of really changing the culture out there and really working with the coaches to get our kids in strength and conditioning more often during out of season and in season. Unfortunately, because of his job changing, you need to understand that this isn't paid for a full-time salary. So with his job change, it's going to require more hours. He doesn't feel like it's going to be time commitment wise to be able to do the job that he wanted to do or had done his first year. So thank him for his time and work with our student athletes and also our athletic teams. And as soon as his resignation is posted, we will be able to open that position up and see if we can get to fill that spot as well. Also received the resignation of Melissa Wolski, who had served as our food services director, effective May 2nd, 2022. I'd like to thank Melissa for her service to Bethel Local Schools and also our food service department. And once again, we will be posting this position very, very soon to find her replacement as well. Very excited to announce that we're going to be able to offer some summer school at the elementary level. We feel like it's going to be a continuance of learning for our students. It's going to continue to provide an excellent educational opportunity for our students and our families to take advantage of throughout the summer. And thank you to these two folks for stepping up and assisting with second and third grade reading. As you can see, the dates are listed. We'll be offering it June 6th through 10th, and then June 13th through 17th as well. And then also, what does that say?
Says June 20 through 24th, I think.
Okay, my eyes are working. So June 20th through 24th as well. My wife keeps telling me I need to get my eyes checked. Don't listen. She's probably right. Next on the agenda is review of ticket prices. So you'll notice that, was there an attachment provided?
Yes,
Okay, so you guys do have the attachment?
yes.
Okay, so thank you to Mr. Smith for putting together a very comprehensive ticket and passes policy or program moving forward. And he's had this kind of in place, but as he gains more experience here, he continues to refine it and tweak it. As you can see on the price admission list, it lists varsity sports and non-varsity sports, what the prices will be for adults and students. Bethel Local Schools will continue to remain cashless at the gate, which I think has been a nice addition, which has allowed us to use the hometown ticketing opportunity for fans. You can see the three options that are presented on how to purchase tickets. On the back side, you'll see that Mr. Smith has also increased the number of different ticket options that our community members can partake in or participate in. We've had the family all sport and the adult and the multi-event. We'll continue to offer the student all sports, but if you notice below, he's taken feedback that he's received from some of our spectators, folks that may just want to attend varsity football games only, or maybe just attend girls soccer games only, or a boys basketball or girls basketball. So that list has greatly expanded for next year. Once again, we're trying to make it more user-friendly and more accessible for people who want to come watch Bethel events, but maybe don't want to commit to an all sports type pass and just kind of want to limit themselves to maybe what their child or grandchild is participating in, which I think is a great idea. So thanks to Mr. Smith for putting that together as well. Also, it indicates in here, once again, how to buy passes, what passes are accepted at the gate, which passes we do not accept at the gate, kind of some expectations for our students as far as no readmittance. Online streaming opportunities for people who want to maybe purchase a subscription to NFHS and watch events as maybe they don't live in the area. And then finally, his last spreadsheet kind of indicates what tickets have been trend-wise over the last 3 to 5 years. And a lot of those prices are set by the league. And then the number of events that we host each year, and then how that's going to expand starting in 2023 with the addition of our new stadium and allowing us to host cross-country events, high school track and field events, and also junior high track and field events, which is always a great opportunity for our kids as well.
I appreciate you making that point that the ticket pricing is set by Three Rivers Conference, not by Bethel.
That's correct.
Like,
Yep,
it's not something we can choose to change.
that is correct. So overnight food trips. All right, we have 2 trips on here that will be discussed at the end if you guys have questions. First one is for a high school volleyball team to take a trip to the University of Cincinnati for volleyball camp. The dates of which it will take place are
July 11th.
where did you see that?
That's on the very first line.
Gotcha. July 11th through July 13th, 2022. So thanks to Coach Ronnebaum for putting that opportunity together for our student athletes. Next one is for high school football to take a team bonding camp at Camp Chattawauga from July 16th through July 18th. So once again, thanks to Coach Coates and his staff for putting that opportunity together for student athletes as well. And next on the agenda are our student fees, proposed student fees for the 22-23 school year. So I've asked each of the principals to kind of put together a spreadsheet based on what we've traditionally done here that shows prices from year to year and kind of any potential changes that might take place with those prices. So as you can see, the 21-22 year is listed, 22-23 year is listed here for elementary students. The total and anything in green is a potential change. So that's the elementary student fees. Next on the agenda are the middle school student fees. You can see what the 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade prices recommended will be for next year. Items in green are the only ones that potentially would change. And then you can see at the very bottom, the second page, that's the only change from last year. So the items above in green are basically just listed below as the only changes. And then for the high school fees, you can see that as well. All of those have stayed the same. The only thing that potentially would change with high school is at the very bottom. It's not in green, but we can place it in green if you'd like. In the past, Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3 did not have any fee associated with it. I believe each of those kids are going to receive some sort of supplemental workbook or that type of curriculum, and there's an appropriate charge that's assigned to it as well.
There's also a reduction.
Is there a reduction in this one?
AP chemistry.
Okay, good catch. Yeah, AP chemistry from $40 to $20. I might have Della put that in green for regular meeting, stands out a little better.
Right.
It's easy to pick up. So. And then on there as well are a series of it's a busy time of the year. We're getting a lot of considerations and approvals for next year. The first item on there is the athletics handbook. If you want to pull that up or not. It's been several years since we've had a handbook officially approved. Mr. Smith had a recent athletic council meeting with all of his coaches and board representative as well. Received a lot of good feedback and information on that. He's updated the formatting of it, personnel and department and the athletics and the membership. He's provided an appropriate athletic offerings and also table of contents as well. It's really broken down and organized. And then as you go through it, I believe he's highlighted all of the items that are new. So kind of put his take on introduction, what he believes education athletics should be about, which is education-based athletics, some of his core values with the PRIDE program, which is an acronym that keep scrolling down, stands for purpose, respect, integrity, discipline, and excellence, and kind of gives a breakdown of what those things stand for as far as trying to be elite in the school system in our educational department athletics. And then he breaks down a lot of the rules and regulations and those kind of things. So this will be placed on final forms. So I take that back. It's not in green, it's in yellow. You can see everything is new. So he's added when student athletes need to be registered in final forms and when they need to be signed up for extracurricular activities. He also placed the student fees in there and a lot of the specifics within the program in regards to how they're going to handle vacations during season and a lot of the other ins and outs that come with the chain of command and making sure people follow that appropriately when they have a concern to communicate to the appropriate parties, et cetera. So thank you to Mr. Smith for really putting that together and organizing it. Like I said, it's the first one we've had approved since I've been here. I think there were some done previously, but it's been updated.
It's been a long time.
Elementary handbook. Once again, they've highlighted in blue all of the items that have changed. One of the tasks that I charged our administrators with this year was sending each of them. I reached out to OSBA, their legal counsel there, and they were able to send us model handbooks that have met compliance through OSBA legal counsel. It's a quick, handy reference tool that allows school districts to make sure that their information meets standards and Ohio Revised Code, et cetera. And so each of our building principals received that, and they kind of went through it with a fine tooth comb and made sure that we are all in compliance with our provisions and stipulations within our handbooks. So that's been done at the elementary, middle school, and high school level. You can see in blue all of the changes that have been recommended to be made at the elementary level. And as you can see, a lot of things have changed with House Bill 410 and truancy. And so we've had to do some updates with what's considered habitually and chronically truant and when people have to be contacted by revised code and those kind of things. You can see all of the changes that have been listed in the elementary. So once again, all of those proposed changes are in.
And who did you say made those again?
I beg your
Who
pardon?
made the changes?
The principals did,
Okay.
but they were given sample model contracts from OSBA's handbook.
You mean OAS? Yeah. You mean OS School Board Association?
Correct.
Okay. All
They
right. I
have it
just
as
wanted to
well.
make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have it as well. I also reached out to OAASA and OSSA, which is the Ohio Secondary School Administrators and the Ohio Elementary School Administrators as well for model handbooks. They're very similar. So
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
was, I heard
Yeah.
it correctly.
same thing, proposed middle school handbook with, you can see all blue is things that have changed. So making sure things are meeting code and compliance. And then, so again, high school handbook. Yeah, if you scroll through that, you can see the proposed changes as well. Yes, is in yellow. So do we have, you want to you want me to take questions on all of those items before we go to the next one, which is instructional materials?
Probably be easiest since we do have our curriculum director here for,
Yeah.
to talk about that, that'd be great. So up through item M, are there questions, comments, concerns?
I'll just ask a general question, for the summer school. Do they know yet how many students will be able to take advantage of that? Or will that come a little, like in a couple of weeks yet?
I can certainly ask. I'm not sure if
I just wondered.
if they've reached out. I do know that it's obviously optional for families.
Mhm.
We can provide the opportunity and suggest that they attend, but we can't require it. But I will certainly ask the elementary principals on where they're at with that
Thank you.
portion.
Just wonder.
Yeah.
And that happens here in the building.
Yes. Yeah, in the traditional classroom setting.
Is that an all day? I know for the week, is it an all day?
I don't believe so. I thought it was half days. Yeah, half days. I have to find.
Are
out
we
time.
responsible, are the parents responsible for transporting them as well?
Parents are responsible for transportation.
Which is hard.
Yeah,
That's fine. I just-
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. But I can send an email out with the answers to those.
Additional comments, questions, concerns?
Is Camp Chautauqua something like a 4-H camp?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they do a lot of team building, like trust falls and rope climbs and zip lines. And so I think it's a way to kind of new coaching staff, build some relationships with the kids, have a fun activity for team bonding, and hopefully continue to gain some excitement for the upcoming season. Absolutely. Campfires, make s'mores, all those good stuff.
Or s'mores.
There you go.
Thanks, way to go. Additional comments, concerns, questions? Before we move on to the curriculum.
I would just like to thank all the people who are retiring or resigning for their work here. Bob is a longtime employee, and I'm very sad to see Mr. Supel go. I know his daughter's a senior, but I understand why. And of course, Ms. C, thank you for all your work. I don't know how long she's worked here, but it's been a long time. So you'll be missed.
Thank you. Anything further? All right, Mr. Perks, how about item N?
All right, next on the agenda for review and discussion would be the adoption of instructional materials, math K through 12. So to kind of give you an update and an idea of where the direction's going, the district is going curriculum wise. Several years ago, we put together a textbook adoption plan. So 2 years ago called for K through 8 English language arts. And so that was the adoption of the Wisdom program, which we're in year 2 of, the Foundations program, which I believe is K1, correct? And then it's the second one I'm missing there. We had Wisdom, Foundations, and Haggerty.
Haggerty.
As well.
Haggerty's K1. Foundations is going to go to 3rd grade.
K3. So those 3 programs are in year 2 of the adoption plan. So the staff had basically a year prior to Mrs. Brandy's arrival to go through that pilot program with our previous curriculum director, who's now at the ESC, Jay Borgers. They looked at various programs, they narrowed it down, and they made a selection. They provided professional development training, and this is year 2. So we actually were up for math adoption last year, but with how big of a change that was with the move to the science of reading philosophy, we thought, let's pump the brakes on math. We felt like doing 2 adoptions back-to-back years was going to be a lot, especially for our elementary staff who were taking on a brand new curriculum. And so we come to the board this year, a year later, looking at a K-12 math adoption. And so once again, it's been led by our curriculum director. We've had staff members involved at every grade level, which K through 8 was a pretty large process. You had 4 more grade levels, and then trying to organize meeting times and getting people together and looking at different programs, utilizing them in the classroom with kids and seeing what's been successful or not. So with the staff and the administration, our curriculum director, they feel like they've got it narrowed down and they've been able to secure quotes. And she is here tonight to talk about in a lot more detail, kind of what I said, because she's been involved directly. I have been from afar, but she can kind of give you the ins and outs on that process, what it looks like, and how they came to the conclusion of these programs.
Hi, I'm Brandy Anderson. Began this year at Bethel. Took over for Jay, like Mr. First said. So thank you for your time and the opportunity. I respectfully come to you all with information. I felt like it was important that I was here to relay it personally instead of through him. So I wanted to see your face and you to see mine and ask anything that you need to know. And if I don't know, I will find out. So when I came into this position, a lot of the groundwork had been laid for what programs they were going to look at, what programs they were going to pilot, who was already on the math committees, like those things were already in motion. Reps had already been contacted, like a lot of the wheels had already started spinning by the time that I kind of stepped in. It's a big process, it's a big adoption. It is K-12. The staff has been involved the entire time. The staff has piloted the programs, a lot of different curriculums kind of flowing, especially in the elementary building and middle too. High school, we kind of it wasn't as significant of a pilot as it was in lower grades. They kind of introduced and used some, but the elementary specifically really embedded into daily practice to see, I mean, it's just like anything. How do I know it works if I don't try it out? Pilots are tough on teachers. Pilots are tough on kids because you feel like, I don't know what's going on. You know, are we all doing the right things here? But so I have mixed feelings about a pilot sometimes. But as a former teacher, I wish I had been given opportunities instead of just told, this is your math book for this year. Come get it. So they had the luxury here of having the freedom to do that under the guidance of administration. I always went in and talked to Mr. Ferks about, you know, this is what's going on. This is, you know, and he and I had many discussions about, you know, what's good for kids, what's good for teachers, what's good for community, you know, and then what the expectation is long-term with the state and all of these things. And if I was a new teacher coming in, how would that go rather than me being 15 years in? So, I mean, I'm blessed to have the teacher hat as well as the curricular hat as well. So they did all the grunt work as usual teachers do. They were in the trench with it. They gave the feedback. We followed ODE's kind of curriculum outline of steps that they suggest that you go through when looking at a new adoption. Had a lot of dialogue, had a lot of discussion. They decided on some things. I went and got some quotes and had some conversations with Tina and Cassie and, you know, the girls and the guys. And I mean, it's been an ongoing year-long process. So it was not taken, you know, lightly. There's been a lot of work put into it. So when I went to Tina about it, you know, always looking ahead, she said, you know, what can we do? What can we get? What can we get? You know, always haggling. No, I'm teasing. No, but she really is a haggler. So she, you know, I went back and I asked for things, and I got a lot of things I may not have gotten other ones. So I appreciate that advice, seasoned advice. So, you know, we were getting things like shipping free on certain things, which is $8,000 sometimes. You know, we're getting free teachers editions for the entire middle school plus some if there's positions added. So this is a 6-year commitment, just like Wit and Wisdom was. 6 years because that's a typical curricular cycle set by people who set those things. And, but it all has to do with circulation. Standards changing really is what dictates all of those things. So, you know, a 3rd grade book you use now would not necessarily cut it. Or even I would use when I taught. Standards change all the time, testing, expectations, things like that. So that's kind of the gist. They vetted these programs through certain, for example, there's a thing called Ed Reports, which is kind of a Kelly Blue Book if you're buying a car, or a consumer report if you're trying to buy a humidifier or something. I don't know. So Ed Reports is a corporation who helps vet things and uses teachers from all over the nation through a vetting process to do that. You know, you're talking like over 900 people who look at these things and do things with these materials that real-time teachers do not have the real time to do. But that's what they're supposed to do now, is take what they've been given and try it out, and they have done that. So I wanted you to know that it's not just being pulled out of thin air. There is processes in place and vetting that goes on, and pricing that gets negotiated. And I feel like we came to a very, considering what past adoptions have been, because I kind of looked back on prior contracts for a K-12. I think this is great, but I've worked my rear off on it, so maybe that's why too. It's K-12 and stats and calculus and algebra and geometry and a financial literacy program that the state changed a law to where all freshmen have to have it. We had to have those books in that curriculum. So it's not just, oh, we've got some math books. We got some math books and then some, a lot of course, a lot of digital support, a lot of, teachers like books. So I felt it was important to listen to them, and they wanted some books in kids' hands, and they wanted them to be able to take a book home, and they wanted kids to have digital access, because that's important too. So, I mean, we really worked it to where I feel like that I got a little bit of everything of what everybody was kind of looking for. I really tried to satisfy the staff, satisfy the board, satisfy Tina, and play nice with Mr. Fergus. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear it, or, I mean, everything's transparent. There's no
So with,
hidden agendas.
one of the big things that always comes up is cost. So
Sure.
what numbers do you have as far as what we spent on wit and wisdom, K through 8, and kind of what we're at with this K through 12?
So, we've had several draft quotes, things like this. What you see up here is their final, with all of the quotes attached from the different companies that we are associated with this math adoption. So Wit and Wisdom was year one, started 7/1/2020. We're averaging almost $60,000 a year for a 6-year commitment, came out to like $337,947. So that was back in 2020. So I mean, you're talking almost $340,000-ish over a 6-year period. Whereas, and that's K-8. This is K-12, which in defense of Wit and Wisdom, those teachers have some incredibly scientific reading. I mean, I could just pour over that series, and I know some people hate it, but the types of literature that those kids are being presented with on a daily basis, even if it seems intense, it is intense, and it needs to be intense. There is Billy Goat Scruff, and then there is, the higher level things too. I mean, kids need all those experiences. So I can't gloat enough over the staff doing that and that being approved. The resources they have are incredible. This is K-12, which is touching more kids. We are using illustrative math. We're using Envision. That was the 2 main programs that they decided to go for. If you're talking, another piece of this is professional development. That's a huge chunk of money coming out of this. So when you see that number as well, when you look back to what the PD for Wit and Wisdom cost, and again, this is a 6-year commitment. So if you look at 6 years, that much, I mean, it's like, it's almost $6,000, and that was just K2. So in the big picture, I feel like it's consistent with what the board has done in the past. If anything, like I'm getting a bargain. I mean, when I look at these numbers, but I know that this was also worked very hard on. So to answer your question, I feel like we're very much in line, if not a little bit better. And this is 2 years later, post-COVID, K-12. So yes, absolutely.
Questions from the board?
Yeah.
Are these going to be one per student in every classroom, or a certain number in each classroom and the rest will be digital? So will each student have an actual physical book?
Yes, it's
So
going to be 1-to-1 for both.
approximately 1,700
Mhm.
books.
Yes.
Plus the teacher.
And, lower primary consumables, middle school's consumables, and that's just the nature of the book. So they'll have this digital access, the teacher will have this digital access, and then they'll have a consumable book that they can write in and things like that. High school really, really wanted all their kids to have a textbook, because I know that's been, according to what I've heard, an issue. And digitally, like, you can see why that people push that, but when you're in the trench with those kids, sometimes they need a book in their hands, especially math books. So that was something that I really wanted for them, and I feel like I got. So yes, people get books, people get digital. Hopefully a little bit of what everybody wanted.
Thanks. Thank you. Can you share any other bells and whistles that
Oh,
come with?
Lori, I mean, gosh, a 6-year digital, license is like a huge bell and whistle right there. I mean, all of these things are interactive, all of these things present it different ways. I will say illustrative math is a little more conceptual. We're trying to do more thinking, and that's just, I mean, whether or not you agree with Common Core math, quote unquote, whatever, this is what it is. So the elementary really liked that problem-based, talking about it. And there's all those procedural fluency things too, but it also is teaching you how to think about math and how to talk about math. Whereas as we get to middle and high, those are a little more heavy on the digital just because they have the Chromebook access. I mean, it's just the nature of their age too. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. Everything offers something a little bit different according to your teaching style. You can have it be very, I will say, the curriculum's very bright, cheery, all the things that visually kids enjoy. But as for other things, I mean, we got a lot of free stuff. I could definitely highlight that. That's a bell and whistle for me, is getting free stuff. So I would just say that the curriculum itself is a bell and whistle for what the expectations are for those kids every single day. The teachers will be better equipped with that, and the digital access is always a perk.
Thanks. Yeah, it sounds like it, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It sounds like it allows the teachers some good flexibility within.
Yes, and that's what I thought was really important too. And when they were vetting that, you want to still, everybody, I love that we can use a uniformed curriculum. And what is so great about K-5 is we're all using the same thing. 6-12, we're all, so you have that continuity that teachers always complain about because they're not on the same page, and you're doing this with math and I've got this textbook. So they have that piece now, that cohesiveness that I think they have wanted. And they've got the people who are brick and mortar people have that, and the people who are Google Classroom and digital all the way, they've got that. So I think that it does allow people to have that flexibility for sure, like you said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you for your work on doing
Oh,
research.
thank you, Jessica.
And I really like, the points that you highlighted about continuity, having the physical workbooks and textbooks in hand for especially the younger grades, but then also having that digital option, especially for the older grades. I personally love the idea of having more tactile, so having that physical book there. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that they really wanted, and and they are the people who do it every day, and they have dealt with no access to anything hard materials, and COVID really did force everybody to feel that, and it was tough. So our kids still need it, but our teachers also need that as well. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Can you check
ma'am.
with Ms. Felton and Mr. Burks? I'm not sure if we're missing one of the K-5 illustrative math Kindle publishing quotes, but one looks like a repeat and the math doesn't quite add up. So I'll let you look at that offline. It's probably just something didn't get posted right rather than just
Our attachments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Two of the attachments are the same.
Well, okay, so I don't know if this is what this is, but one is a quote for the initial adoption. There's another that's a quote for every year prior to have to reorder those consumables. So Kendall Hunt actually has 2 different quotes, actually 3 with a professional development piece. So, but absolutely, we can look at
Right,
that.
so just double check and
Yes, ma'am.
explain to me at the board meeting or have Mr. Burks, because the math right now doesn't add up. The other ones look fine. I have a feeling it's probably one of them is a duplicate, like I said, and just the wrong one got posted. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Other comments from the board? Questions? Well, I'll chime in because having been a high school math teacher for a number of years,
Ooh, okay.
I'm gonna dig in there for just a second. Obviously, I enjoy the fact that we have books and we have digital. That's fabulous at all grade levels. I think that's wonderful. I really enjoy that a lot. I like as a high school teacher that you can have an opportunity to know what was covered and how, and that the system is consistent, because I've worked in schools where I was at a career tech high school, so I had no earthly idea what curriculum was coming at me from what school, and that's mind-boggling because you don't know how it was taught at all. You have no idea. So this is fabulous for our students and for our teachers. From that perspective, I love that. I do love having the book in the hand. I love that. Can you talk a little bit more about the adaptability to styles for high school teachers especially? Do you have to do online to be as effective for, say, pre-calc and calc? Because I know it doesn't always mesh with the style for those classes, or for like algebra 2, things like that. Or can you talk more about what the online options are for those higher level math classes?
So you were at high school?
I was.
Oh, they were my problem children,
I know, and I knew we would be. That's kind
They
of
were,
that's why I'm
they-
asking, because they're very
no.
set in our ways for sure. And I know that
Oh.
sometimes working that online curriculum into your class,
Yeah.
the way you do things, can be difficult for us to adapt. So,
And we had,
and I had to adapt to it with the curriculum change we did at my school. So
Yeah.
I'm sensitive to this.
absolutely, no, I get it. The math department in high school is not a big department. There's just 3 of them, I think 4 now, we hired somebody else, right? So, small group of people, very, aware of each other's needs and what, being that small, you just lean on each other a lot as a team, but you know this. So there we had a lot of conversations about, this is what works, this is what we liked, this is what we need, this is what we need to adapt to, because coming from elementary, which is where I'm from, your day looks very different than high school does. And well, I've got schooled on that, which is great. You've got this much time, if you have hour delays, it bumps it, like there's so many different things. And some of the seniority on that team knows that. So helped make us all more aware of it. And I appreciated the insight. So they chose Envision, which is a Pearson / Savos, which is, they've renamed their company. They looked at the illustrative, which is what elementary is doing. They looked at a couple of other programs, but again, we really tried to go to what was high quality, what was usability, what was focus of it, what was the layout, was it consistent to what, so they really did the work, and I just was the vessel that received it, and took feedback to other people, and then we had conversations. So I felt like they were the experts and they had the best insight. We would have dialogue and sometimes disagreeable dialogue, but I really tried to put the trust in them that they were the qualified people to make that call. So I think for them, they are very pleased with that series, how the structure is, the way they can really go online if they want, or pull back and do more tangible in class. I feel like they're very satisfied with it, and I trust them. Bob Hamlin is the pre-cal teacher. He chose the particular series, and I really wanted that for him because I feel like he understood what those kids in that level need. So he has access to both. I feel like what I know he'll probably lean towards. But he has the accessibility if he needs an online option. So again, I hate to just kind of lay on them, but they really did the work and talked through it, and we had conversations with reps virtually and things like that. They had a lot of discussion about it, and they felt like that program really supported.
Good. And that kind of helps explain why there's the 2 different digital situations, and that makes a lot of sense to me. And knowing that they can be standalone with the digital or not. I saw that there were like some Larson textbooks, and I love Larson textbooks as a math teacher, so I'm a big fan of that, and I support that. My only other question I have for you then, have you talked to any districts or talked to the reps about districts who have incorporated this and seen how their EOC test results go at the high school level?
Yes, ma'am, I have actually.
Thank you.
Yes, so I asked for surrounding counties or surrounding, I'm not, I don't know if they do counties here. It's hard for me, like the data. small town, I don't know, townships, I'm not used to that. So I asked for programs that we were piloting in the area, and I reached out to either a math coach, a curricular director, an administrator, you know, and then we even had conversations with teachers about it too. I tended to be the one that took in the information, took it back to them. And I mean, I got as much as, you know, they had a virtual conversation one day with a math coach in another district, the surrounding district. What is difficult is everybody's growing pains, that initial, you know, and your scores do dip a little initially, usually, just because of the transition. It's shocking for the staff, and it relays into the kids, and you can't help it. But they all have been very pleased with, you know, nobody said, oh, that's garbage, don't get it, you know. Everybody kind of follows along the same, you know, looking at what the state says, looking at what ed reports say, going with what their teachers say. And they chose things that didn't necessarily, you know, wasn't what I thought they might choose based on the feedback we got from other people. So that told me that they really trusted and believed in what they were doing. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that, of course, I mean, I pay attention to pricing. I'm not going to be ridiculous, and, you know, and they're not either. I feel like they really took in consideration all the pieces that it takes to get an adoption this large pushed through. And yeah.
And I can share with the board, we had an online and a textbook package for my school, which is only 2 years worth of students, and ours cost us a little over $90,000 for 3 years. So if this is what we're paying for 6 years for K-12, I mean, so.
Well, and
Truly.
you know, I really tried to price it out in a lot of different ways. I did quotes just straight digital. I did quotes, textbooks and digital. I did book, you know, just textbook, like take it back to them, let them look at it, let them listen to it, let, you know, weigh the pros and cons of it, you know, so there was a conscious effort to be aware of spending money wisely. I mean, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
That's all. I mean, that's a board planning for me. So, okay. Thank you so much for your efforts. I echo Mrs. Franz, what she said there. It's a very time consuming process and a whole year pilot for all of our teachers who piloted too. That was a great effort on their part as well. And the board's very grateful for all of the time from all of our instructors who were involved.
Yeah, teachers say, I can't say enough about it either. I mean, they really did take the time out.
Somebody has anything else?
Thank you.
Mr. Burks, anything to add?
On a different note, just kind of wanted to provide one last update in regards to curriculum. It's shared within the elementary handbook. We don't necessarily have a separate gifted handbook per se, but we've mentioned via email that we're looking at some curricular changes next year with our gifted program. We currently have been receiving a gifted coordinator through the ESE, similar to kind of what Brandy does, but on a smaller note, like 20 days a year. We're going to be able to bring that position in-house, have our elementary assistant principal next year serve as our K-12 gifted coordinator. Some of the changes that we're looking at as far as the gifted programming that we're offering, to kind of give you an idea of now and tomorrow, what it's going to look like meeting tomorrow next year. Right now, we have the Quest program, which serves students who are considered superior cognitive, which means they have an IQ of 128 or higher. As a result, right now, our gifted programming serves 4 students in 3rd grade, 2 students in 4th grade, and 6 students in 5th grade, for 12 total students being served in our gifted programming, grades 3 through 5. Next year, we're going to still identify the students that are superior cog, but we're also going to now include students that are gifted ID in math or reading, which essentially means that they score at the 95th percentile or higher, which gives them a gifted subject ID in reading or math. That'll be taken from our spring iReady diagnostic, which we provide to each student. And as of right now, depending upon if scores change, which could be more students, with the changes that we're looking at, we will have 9 students in 3rd grade identified next year 12 students in fourth grade, 15 in fifth grade, 3 through 5 for math. In fourth grade reading, 26 students, fifth grade reading, 20 students. So a pretty significant increase in the number of students that we're going to be able to serve in gifted, which we feel like is going to be able to allow us to better use our gifted dollars that we're receiving. And then we're also going to be able to offer gifted or accelerated math in grades 3 through 8 next year as well. So I would fully anticipate in the future. We've had discussions preliminarily, don't hold me to it, but there's been talk of offering Algebra 1 in the future as low as 7th grade in the future for those students that qualify.
Love it.
So it's kind of what we're looking at for gifted services as well. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. In your service. Y'all do a lot. You're like, oh, y'all do a lot.
If there's not any other questions, you're free to stay or leave.
Well, I hate to leave good company, but
We hate to see you go.
I've got a 6-year-old that needs me. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was very important.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Nothing further, Mr. Perks, then we want to item 7, items for discussion. So strategic plan on the agenda for this evening. When Mrs. Sebastian and I met with Mr. Perks, we had asked to add the strategic plan to the agenda. And we asked him to discuss with us specifically communications and technology, just to sort of see where we are with those two things from our strategic plan. And, just update the board, and we'll kind of bring that back out and see where we're at and what we need to do, and et cetera, et cetera. So.
Okay. So the 2 categories you said were
Communications
Communication.
and technology.
okay. Starting first with technology, we've made a number of upgrades and improvements throughout the district technology-wise. The biggest one was the complete overhaul of the infrastructure of our technology department. Over the summer, we upgraded all of our wiring throughout the district to Cat 6E wiring. Some of the wiring was originally put in the district. I believe that was back in like 1999. And so I'm not a technology person, but in speaking with the technicians that were doing the replacement, that wiring was Cat 6.4. A lot of times they told me now they use Cat 6.4 wiring for telephones, those kinds of devices. So, and then we've also upgraded our APs, which are our access points, and they've also replaced our switches as well. So that was a pretty significant project to do K through 12. We used a substantial amount of money that we received from federal funding for E-rate dollars, which allows districts to do these types of projects. It covered a good portion of it, but it was also a fairly significant investment on the district's behalf as well. I can probably say that we're probably 85 to 90% of the way through state testing, and that includes AP testing, which we hold in the high school gymnasium. We haven't had any glitches. We haven't had any spontaneous shutdowns or problems with the testing browser. I think if you would speak to the staff, those have all been issues in the past where testing was dramatically impacted, especially now from the transition away from paper pencil tests at the state level to essentially you take them all online. That was problematic in Bethel with our old networking system. And so we've constantly done checkups and follow-ups with the staff and how's testing going, any issues, some things at the state level, but it wasn't that the issues were because of on our end. And so that project's gone extremely well with technology. In addition, we've also done some things to try to improve the educational process beyond just hardwiring and infrastructure. We have added the iReady diagnostic, which we talked about previously. iReady is a K-8 diagnostic that we use in reading and math. It's not only an educational tool that can be used as a supplemental for staff to use with lessons that are essentially icing on the cake for what they're learning in class, but it's also utilized as a comprehensive diagnostic tool 3 times a year for progress monitoring. We do it in the fall, winter, and spring. It's a way for us to track our students K through 8 to see what they're doing well in and what are some areas of opportunity so that we can constantly reflect on instructional practices and what are some standards that we teach really, really well and what are some areas that we need to look at in our lesson plan development and design, because maybe a trend pattern shows that our students don't score as high in a particular area. So the iReady diagnostic has been a significant improvement district-wide that the district had not had previously, consistently K through 8. I can tell you that 9 through 12, there's been some preliminary discussion amongst the staff of trying to look at something similar. iReady is not a K through 12 program. It's more geared towards that K through 8 level, because with the state of Ohio going away from SLOs, which was part of how teachers received information and data on how they were evaluated. Now it's based on quality data. And so they need some sort of a diagnostic to use in addition to this for classroom observations. And that's a potential tool that we're looking at. So that could be something that we look at in the future as far as trying to figure out diagnostic wise how we can do something similar 9 through 12 and have some consistency across the district. In addition, we've updated technology wise our website with Apogee. We've also included a mobile app which allows people to get notifications on their phones. The website also allows us to hit almost all social media outlets in one posting. So we can hit Facebook, we can hit a news article, we can do banners on our screen, we can do a notification. We still utilize the one call now method technology wise as well. I know in the elementary level, we have selected one consistent communications app that teachers can communicate with families at home as well. And so I think we've continued to make progress technology wise with a number of things that we've incorporated in the district the last 3 years. Communication wise, some of those things really carried over with technology. I mean, especially when you look at the Apogee website, I think social media wise, it's definitely an area where we've improved significantly with the app and with the use of Facebook and Twitter. I can also tell you the hiring of our communications director has significantly improved the way we've used graphics and getting announcements out in a more timely manner and being more comprehensive in the way we communicate with folks digitally. I can tell you I've had conversations with Jacob over the last month or two. You know, now that COVID is kind of passed and we can kind of focus in on other things. My first year we had a newsletter. Last 2 years, this year and last, we kind of went away with it with everything else going on. We're planning on starting a school newsletter back up and getting that going, because I also realize that not all folks are on digital. And so that'll hit a lot of the generation that maybe isn't as active on Facebook and Twitter and school websites and those kind of things. Internal communications, we've incorporated a lot more surveys with staff and getting their feedback at the building level and at the district level on basically how things are going. We have developed a labor management committee during my time in the district where I meet, I would say 3 or 4 times a year with representatives from DEA in regards to potential issues or concerns. And we feel like it's better to get out in front of things and have discussions beforehand on topics so that either resolutions can be figured out or answers can be found before they boil over and turn into a potential grievance. And so with that, we feel like we've done a really good job with the internal communication. Obviously, the external communication, the newsletter will be a big piece of that. And I think once we get that thing going with like a return to school type newsletter late this spring, and it'll also include highlights of like things that went really well this last school year. So we would talk about the recent ranking that we received from #1 school in Miami County as far as the high school. We would talk about the Purple Star Award that we received recently from the Ohio Department of Education. We would take a look at successes recently of our music department with the #1 rating. We would talk about league championships. We would talk about various activities throughout the year and highlights as far as things that we've accomplished and successes that we've experienced.
I think, Justin, that's a great summary. One thing I'd like to see us do is go back to the strategic plan. I mean, we spent a lot of time on that. It was well developed, and actually look at the individual line items. Really, you need to do that because it's really you're the implementer of this. And really see where, you pointed out some of our strengths, some of the weaknesses, and see if we can't get back. I mean, some of this was supposed to be done in 2020 and then COVID. So it's no, I don't think anybody's faulting anyone, but I just think we need to get back to the document because we spent money on this. We said we weren't going to let it sit on the shelf, and then so it has just because I think COVID. But we're out, like you said, we're out of COVID, and I think we need to go back to it. We asked for the community input. We put a lot of time into it. I think it's time we follow through. And Tina, have you been seeing it since you've been here?
I've seen it, yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Have I read through
No.
all of it? No. Yeah, there's some financial
Yeah,
parts to it, so.
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, I just encourage you because, I mean, Danny, Lyda and I, Jacob and Julie spent a lot of time on this, as did other people. And it was, I think it's a good document. We just need to follow it.
And a lot of it's probably done.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
especially in what you just went through, there's a lot that's already been done, like we want
Mhm.
to do this, this and this, and by such and such a date, so there'll be a lot you can just cross off immediately. And with some new staff, like, Jacob Watson, he needs to go through and make sure he's covered what he's supposed to cover, and our new technology director, he's been covered, and, you can just allocate
Yeah.
and delegate that to those folks, and our new, I know there was a lot for the elementary principal, there was a couple of
Yeah.
stuff that wasn't in elementary.
I'll definitely have it be on the agenda and one of our, I call it A team, it's our administrators, so all of our supervisors before we leave for the summer. That'll be a sole item, probably agenda item, and we'll go through and start taking a look at a line item type breakdown and start filling in the blanks as things that have been accomplished and then areas that we still need to address. So I would fully anticipate that you guys will probably have an update on those areas. I think if we get it done before school's out and they have the time to work on it throughout the summer, I think kind of a back to school update would be good before we start the school year.
Yeah, for sure. Can we make this something that's like on our agenda where the actual plan is there and like you can update those dates as we know, or things are crossed off as we know they're done or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
That would be great. Just make it a regular showing. And then we'll just pick things like, what is it, goal 1, goal 2, goal 3? Is that
Yeah, I
what it
mean, we
was?
could do one, really, I mean, and some of these, when you go back into this, Justin, you may say, oh, this one's already almost done, so June meeting, we can just cover that one.
Yeah.
Some of like communications, we may have to wait till August or
Yeah,
something,
for
but
sure.
some of these others may be already. Sounds like technology has made a lot of progress. I didn't read all the specific objectives. Tina, we won't put you on the spot right away, because I know you have lots of other stuff for you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so if like communications has how many of our goals, 4 goals or whatever it is, we probably have 3 of those are probably done. So it'd just be pretty easy to update that and then say, we're on goal 4
Yeah.
and or whatever. Yeah, that would be good. If we could just start filling in that right-hand column with notes or whatever, that would be good, just to see it starting to get rounded out and actually, complete, because they said what, every 3 to 5 years we're supposed to do this. And because of COVID, we're sort of 2 years in, but not 2 years in, so
Yeah.
we need to, start getting to where we can figure out, are we ready to?
Well, and maybe a
Yeah.
good one to update, honestly, maybe a good one to update in June or July would be facilities, because that would be, I don't want to say
Oh, yeah.
easy, but I mean, that's one that you can definitely, I'm sure certain things are crossed off.
Oh,
and what you can
100%.
do with the
100%.
growth for the next school year, things like that. So I think that would be a really appropriate one to do in June or July.
And I know we're throwing a lot on your plate, but a lot of people this stuff is delegated to and take that on
Yeah.
themselves, and do their part
Okay.
and just get it back to you. And so that would be pretty cool.
That was a very nice summary.
It really was.
Because
You
we
forget,
need to keep getting reminded.
absolutely. We
This-
forget all the
this
stuff
one
that
right
got
here,
done,
yeah. Right.
100%.
And do you mind, it's been a while since I've looked at it. Do you mind sharing, where, is it right on the main menu?
This was in an email. I'm not sure if the whole detailed one, because this was an internal document, but I'm
Oh,
sure
okay.
the other 2 are still out on check on the
You
webpage
go-
for you.
If you go to the menu, you type in strategic plan, you
That's
should
what
be
I
able
was
to find
gonna
it in
do.
documents.
It's misspelled.
There's two versions. There's a high level version and there's a detailed one. It's the same thing, just one.
Yeah.
It probably just listed the.
Yeah, it was a higher
The higher
level,
level,
right.
yeah.
But there, I think there were 6 goals if I pulled up the right one.
Can you refresh my memory, Mr. Parker, have we announced that? When is the blackout week for the summer?
I see that.
Bethel K-12. It's sorry.
Yeah, coaches decided kind of at the last
There
athletic
you
council meeting, they were not
Sorry.
gonna have it this year.
You're not gonna do that this
Sure,
year?
you've not the first person to do that. And then go to the search bar, which is kind of hidden behind the,
There you go then. So we refinished the gym forms.
Yeah, I'll have to follow up with Todd.
oh yeah, this is the pretty detailed ones. Oh, this is 15.
I think that was part of it, that was
Yeah,
usually,
it was.
that got done.
Yeah,
If you go to the search bar, if
Anybody
anybody's
shuts everything down, that's gonna be,
yeah, I'll let you guys know.
okay.
If you go to the search bar under the main menu, I know Tina can't quite get to it right now, but if you type strategic plan, there are 2 or 3 documents that pop up and those are the ones we worked on, so you will find them. There she got. I think the summary is like a 1-pager, but that one's, yeah.
So, we can see what we're talking about, so. Each thing had a goal.
Oh, can you go back to page 2? I think that's what we've done.
So when I say communication, obviously there's communication goal 1, and then underneath that, for the one that we see, there was multiple items underneath that, and they had timelines. So at the time, it was like, by June of 2020, you want to do this, and by August of 2020, you want to do that, and whatever. And so, and then COVID hit, and a lot of people were clearly scrambling to do different communication items at that time. So some of that got kind of sidebarred.
Yes.
But then actually a lot of things continued to move, it just had a pause. So June wasn't feasible, but a lot of it got finished by, say, January of 21. So a lot of it is, I'm sure, complete, just not on the same timeline we initially expected and anticipated. So,
I think this came in a binder we were given.
yeah, I think it's a new board member binder, yes, absolutely, I do think you have that. The one, if we scroll through the whole thing, there would be very high level. Yeah, you know, the main goal would be listed, but probably not the timeline specificity, specifics, why am I making big words? Specifics would probably be there, so, yeah, absolutely, so we belabored that pretty hard at this point, I think, but yeah, I think everybody gets the point.
Excellent.
So, yeah, but thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Burks, that really was
We'll get
awesome.
it updated.
That really was awesome, and we'll get there, because we don't want it to go to waste. So, okay, anything further about strategic plan? Any other questions, concerns, ideas? Okay, all right, moving on then to 7B, restroom partitions. So this came up in our last meeting where we talked about, we've discussed amending our current facilities in light of more privacy, so on and so forth. And I kind of said, well, okay, but what are we looking at? What do we want to do? What do we want them to look like? And until we can reach consensus, it's hard to do an RFP or an RFQ, I guess it would be, request for quotes to have anyone else get us pricing. We have pricing from one vendor for what is lovely called the Tiny Hider.
It's not mine.
It's not our name, that is the name from this particular company. So, and this is what their product looks like. We don't know if that's what we want all of them to look like. We don't know if that meets what everyone agrees to. When we say partitions and restroom privacy, is this what everyone was thinking? Are we all on the same page? That was what I wanted to address and have everyone talk about before we send out an RFQ, so that we know we're all getting back quotes that look the same, mean the same, are the same. So, thoughts from you lovely folks?
I like the stalls, the partitioned areas. I think that's good coverage from ceiling to floor without it being completely closed in, and if necessary, somebody could crawl under if in an emergency situation.
For little buddies, right? So that's my main concern. Is little buddies get in there sometimes, they may not be able to work a lock, they may get stuck, sometimes they might get scared to the point where they can't actually function. They may not be able to listen when you say, okay, just here's what you need to do. They don't understand the description, you know, so an adult could say, or even a parent could say, Are you have your pants, everything covered? Like, are you good? Cause I might have to like, reach under, hold my hand. You can lay down and let's get you out of there and slide them out from under the door. Like, as long as someone can get out if they need to get out, that's important. It's very important. It's also important to be able to see how many feet are in a stall. I think that's important for safety and security and knowing that no one's getting either, beat up in there. Like, you never know. Things happen sometimes and we just want to know what's going on. As an administrator or an adult walks into the room, you want to be able to see what's happening. So I think an opening at the bottom is absolutely important for safety and security. Like I said, the little buddies were who my mind went to like immediately. Little buddies being able to get out if they get locked and can't work the lock. That was my main thing. And I think urinal partitions, I think everyone's been, pretty right away okay with those.
Oh, yeah.
That was not even a question.
That was a no-brainer there.
I think we all can agree, even when you were in school, right, Mr. Elam, like, you'd be okay with you would wish you had those would have existed then, right? So that's not something that is a new thing for someone to go, yeah, that would be cool. So now we had $70,000 not counting labor.
Never, not having done this before, I had no idea what we were getting into when we had a company do a site visit as far as what price. And so this was going to include essentially all of the restrooms in the high school and middle school, but it did not include labor. That was just for materials.
Right.
And that was the number that we were provided.
Sure.
And then once that number came back, Mrs. Hageman reminded all of us that because it's that number, we'll have to do an RFP. So
Get 3 quotes, right?
we'll have to get, well, I think when you do an RFP, it's whoever submits bid.
Well, sure,
So
that's
you could
fair.
have, you could have 10.
You could have 1 and you
Yeah.
could have 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because I'm not sure how different, we're talking how many inches at the bottom or the top we're talking about for this price. That's an excellent question. They do look a little bit more closed at the front
Correct.
from a,
There's no gaps between
yeah,
the
there's no
door
gaps in the
frames.
front.
Now, is that one stall or is there multiple ones there? Because when I look at that, that looks like
I
one
see
stall.
one
Should
long,
be.
right?
I see.
It looks like 3 stalls.
I mean, I thought there would be 3, but I don't see the
The
handles
So
on
I
the
would
other
think
ones.
that maybe on the inside is
Okay.
the lock part, like, so maybe you just don't see a handle. not
So
that.
there are 3 stalls there, because I just wanted to check, because I'm like, is that?
Correct.
So there's
3.
no handle.
Okay.
We
I
have,
think
we have,
that's because that
Because
probably
the
is the
handicaps,
handicap.
we have
okay.
restrooms that have 3, so.
No, that's fine, I just wanted to make sure.
Right, so this is a picture from the company.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
not based on what our restrooms gonna look like. Just trust me, they don't look that nice.
Now, would we have to, the assumption would be we'd have to take out all the existing.
Yeah,
And this will take a long time, right? Because we have to shut
I
down
mean-
facilities and
to be honest, people could be frustrated, it's taking a while, but this is not a project. If you're gonna do all 10 restrooms, you're not gonna be able to do it during the whole school year. It's gonna be your summer project for you.
Good thing we have like 7 or 8 summer workers.
Well, that's probably gonna be done by the company.
Oh, okay.
I would assume our summer people, Todd and those guys don't know how to put these things in.
right.
Yeah, thank you. That's why I was gonna
Yeah.
ask if that money included the labor from this company.
No, labor's not included.
At all.
70,000 is for materials.
Okay.
Labor is not included.
I apologize, I didn't catch that.
So,
Walls.
Mr. Elam, how different are they?
The walls are 6 feet tall. Here, and what we have currently,
Okay,
we currently have urinal dividers now in the high school. This is probably half of what the height is at the bottom.
Okay.
Maybe it's 2 feet. So this looks like it might be 1.
We currently do not have urinal dividers in all of the middle school restrooms.
right, just in the high school.
Right, just the one, this
Yeah.
one. What I'm saying.
So you would estimate, Mr. Elam, that the high school ones you think are about 6 feet tall right now? Yeah,
Right here.
based on,
I'm
Just
not
something
quite
based on
six-
your
I'm
height.
not hardly 6 feet tall.
And do we have dimensions on these, Justin?
I'd have to go upstairs and look on what was provided to me in the quote. I don't know if that was sent, when I emailed it, did I email the quote to you guys, or did they send me a number?
I don't think.
I may have just sent you a
I
number.
think you just said a number.
I can send that out tomorrow.
Because I think, I mean, that ceiling could be 8 foot high, it could be 10 foot high, none of us know.
Right.
And I just had a general question, just asking, is there any appetite to go with all stalls in place of urinals? Just,
I mean, you could look at it.
if we do a quote or, request for quote, is that something to ask? I don't know how many is in each bathroom. Is that 3 or 4?
Men's restrooms, you probably have 3 or 4 urinals.
I know it's cost, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just
You
asking.
can always look.
There are 3 in this bathroom.
3.
This picture doesn't look like we're gaining much as opposed to what we already had in the high school. A foot on the top. Maybe one on the bottom.
And I think for me, I would think, when I think privacy, I'm not thinking this way vertically. I'm thinking more when you shut the door that you have the gaps sealed. That would be more my issue with privacy if I would think privacy, right? That's my concern. I'm not concerned about below and above. I'm concerned more about
Yeah,
gaps.
between the door and
Yeah.
the rail.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see. If I was gonna address anything, that would be what I would want to address. And obviously, I'm okay with urinal partitions in the middle school because we don't have those right now, and I think that that's just a comfort factor for most young boys. I know for my son, it's always been a thing where, I think most young men would like to have that. I think that's just a thing that is a comfort factor, right? So, but for
And I
me,
think
it's a gap thing.
The only reason, it's just because of the age of the building. I just don't think at the time.
Correct.
I mean, so
Yeah,
it's
it wasn't
not-
a thing then.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was not a thing when I was in school. It wasn't
Yeah.
a thing when you guys were in school, so.
there's only a couple of restrooms that don't have.
Correct. So that I think is kind of something I think everyone can agree on. I don't think that's an issue, and I don't think the expense is really involved there.
No,
That's
your
not where
most of
the
your
money's
expense
coming
is gonna
from.
be from the stalls.
Correct. So for me, I would like to see something that addresses the gap in the doors as opposed to adding to the height and something that's gonna be so time consuming and so costly.
Maybe there's something that could be added to what we currently have.
Like rubber stripping,
Right.
almost like the
Almost
door
like
strip.
weather stripping or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. That would be something more. I don't know. What do they call the strip at the bottom of the door, the sweep, door sweep,
Yes.
like that? That would be more of in my thinking, and much more affordable. I don't know, that's my thoughts. I don't know, you guys, what else? What do you think?
I don't disagree. Justin, what, the one on the left, is that a handicap? Is that why?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, we talked about that with your.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to make
Apologies.
sure there were 3 stalls because I only saw a handicap
Yeah,
one. and I was
it's
very
the one,
confused.
far right's the traditional, middle's traditional, far left is handicap.
Gotcha. Mr. Perks, I looked, you had not sent the quote to
Did I send you the dollar
us,
amount?
just the photo, and
Okay.
you didn't even send the dollar amount to us, because we didn't send it out loud to last meeting.
Oh,
It
that's
was-
what it was. Okay. Yeah, I'll send you the email tomorrow that indicates the size of them as well, and maybe I'll have Todd measure the existing ones and provide that, so you can kind of see the difference.
Check our old.
Jessica, do you have any thoughts? Not at this time. I said not at this time.
So I'll send you the sizes of the new ones and the existing, and I'll also send you that quote that was provided. But once again, it's just for materials at 70,000, didn't include labor.
And you would not want our summer staff to do that? Is that what I heard then?
I mean, I can ask Todd, but he'll probably look at me like I'm crazy.
No, it's fine. I didn't know what's involved.
I think he could put in the urinal
dividers,
dividers,
yeah,
but I don't
yeah.
know about the. those-
Well, and you guys may have a lot of other stuff to do. I don't know what else on the plate. Because I mean, that makes a big difference, because probably labor is gonna be as expensive, if not more so than the cost of the,
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
Sure.
I'm guessing.
Normally.
yeah.
So, I mean, that makes a big
Double the cost.
difference in what we're looking at. I mean,
Would you ask Mr. Bird too if he has any thoughts about something for closing the gaps, like if there's any such thing as like a weather stripping kind of a concept or door sweep kind of idea that he might think of that wouldn't look tacky or get torn apart from normal wear and tear of student use with the doors.
Okay, yeah. I'll ask them as well in the morning.
Todd's so bright, like he comes up with such unique ideas out of the box thinking that he may just be like, oh yeah, this is, boom, got it.
Some kind of piece of aluminum or
Right.
something, anything like that,
Yeah,
screwed into the door.
quite possibly. He may know something that just right off the top of his head he'll think of,
Okay.
so. yeah. He's a smart guy. And in the meantime, maybe that quote is like itemized for the difference between the urinal partitions, et cetera, and we can look at that price. This facilities meeting will be coming up before our.
I get nervous when you have to do an RFP and getting an itemized quote. It's kind of an unfair thing when because the company might not want to do that because you're setting them up to potentially lose a bid.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's no different than like when our architects didn't really necessarily want to,
Yeah, no, I
because
get
they're
that.
gonna go, I mean, you're gonna have to go out to bid, and if people listen to the meeting and find out what they're gonna lowball them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That could be a potential issue. Unless Mrs. Hagan thinks different.
No, I see your point. I see your point.
It'd be one thing if it was under the price threshold and you gotta pick. Maybe it's not, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
Well, I mean, all I know is like, as a board, we really have to decide our scope on this and what we want to spend, and especially with labor, if we're doing labor, if we're installing it ourselves. Right? But I do take your point very well, like.
I'm just
not
looking out,
asking somebody.
I'm looking out for the complaints that you might get from
Yeah,
local companies that
yeah,
say you set us up for failure when you made us publicly announce our price and everybody else went $20 below.
well, yeah, for sure, and that's why we haven't said we need, 17 units of this at this price. and
Yeah.
45 of that at that price, and I get that, I
I
understand.
mean, I can share it with you guys, but I don't know if I would share it in a public board meeting before you do the RFP.
Right.
That's just my opinion, but if you guys want to, we can.
So fair to say that we can all make up our mind about our desires by the facilities meeting on Monday, is that?
Well, are we gonna know if we don't have pricing? I mean, does pricing matter to anybody on this? I'm just curious, because I mean, if it's gonna cost. Well, I'm just asking, because I'm like, I mean, if it's gonna be $500,000 with labor, I'm not saying it will be, but I'm giving a
Right.
large quote. That's probably pretty unreasonable, but then again, there may be people in our community that are like, no, you need to do that. I don't know at this point.
Right.
Price sure is a sticking point for me.
Natalie?
Well, it's very important. I mean, we have a new school, and we have to look out for everything, but we have to balance that and make sure we do our best to try to meet all our requirements.
Because any money we put here is money we won't have to put in fifth grade wing, and I think that's a sticking point for me at least, maybe not everybody else, I don't know, but I think we need to be considerate of that.
Absolutely.
And so if we can find a weather stripping solution, for lack of a better term, that doesn't cost, that should not cost $70,000. But then I guess what is our direction, or will we decide this at the board meeting that we tell Tina and Justin, do we want them to go get quotes for this stuff so we know what the final costs are? I don't know what the answers are. Because without those costs, I don't know that we can make a good decision, can we? Or is $70,000 a sticking point for some of you? I mean, I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I'd like to avoid that.
Yeah, I think $70,000 is very steep for
I thought
what,
it was awful.
when I saw that picture, I thought,
Yeah.
"Hey, that's not very different than what we have now." That was my take personally. So. And I guess that's why I wanted us to discuss it tonight, was to see where everyone else was, if they kind of had that same impression when you see that picture. Do you feel like, are you getting value for dollar for $70,000 when you think about our restrooms? That's when you think that labor is usually almost the same as what you're putting in materials, if not more. I think that's a fair statement too, anyone who's worked with contractors, that usually is how that goes. It's a sizable investment, and I'm not sure I'm seeing value of that level for what we're getting compared to what we have now.
I agree. I don't see the value.
I also believe that there might be another option.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't go in to see how tall it was, but a replacement door as opposed to the whole shell, I'm sure they would rather sell their whole system, I get that, but I mean, there are other options that help reduce the cost perhaps, and also look at volunteers to install things. I mean, this is for the community. There might be some very good handyman that would be very willing to come in and help put this in, that Todd would have faith in, that maybe he knows some community members that would do this. That he would trust, and that as the school would trust. So that's another option too for labor. We have a lot of skilled people in the community that might be willing to help us out. Just another option, so to help bring the cost down.
There's certainly potential. I think something that could cover that hinge sign.
Yeah.
Hinge cover of some kind, and something for the other side that is like a flap of some kind, like a weather stripping kind of flap could be. You would think that'd have to be more affordable than replacing the whole thing, you know? I don't know. That's my thought. But we have to figure that out before we go to RFQ, because, and it's also my understanding, Mr. Bertrand, there aren't very many vendors who specialize in this kind of a product in the first place, so kind of at that mercy as well, without, again, getting creative and come up with alternative solutions. So, yeah, I think I'm kind of hoping Mr. Bird has some genius ideas.
And I suppose that in terms of the height and the low part, if it needed to be lower, same kind of thing, something could be added there on the bottom. So that there's less room, there, if that's a concern.
I guess we go to facilities. Maybe Mr. Bird will have some feedback by Monday's facilities meeting.
Yeah, I'll try to get some answers by Monday.
And see what we got by then. And hopefully by Monday, facilities / board meeting, we'll have what we need to have an RFQ done for whatever it is we collectively agree to do. Agree to do. Okay. I mean, I just don't know what else to do.
Is that enough time, do you think? I know facility, it's less, it's 3 business days, 3.5.
I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we can ask, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone have anything further generally about the privacy and the partitions in the restroom? Any other thoughts, concerns we haven't already discussed? Okay, possible executive session. I know we need an executive session for number 1 regarding employment of a public official. I guess it would be discipline, technically, as well as regarding employment of a public employee. And we also need to discuss item 5, matters are required to be kept confidential by regulations under state statute. Someone have anything additional for executive session? No. Okay. So at that point, then Ms. Hageman, oh, sorry, do I have a motion to go to executive?
I'll move.
Mr. Elam moves. Is there a second?
Oh, second.
Thank you, Natalie, for the second. Ms. Hageman, when you have a moment, you call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sebastian,
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes. Okay, the board is in executive session at 7:05 p.m. Thank you. Any action expected by anybody? Not on my part. Okay, no action is expected that we anticipate at this time. At the conclusion of executive session. Thank you all for your time and attention to our meeting.